WrestleTalk!
After teasing us last week that they might break up the group, it looks like we're all back on the same page again.
Oh, thank goodness.
God, I can't give it. Because also on this episode, they teased that they might break up Imperium.
I can't.
And I'm not doing both of them.
The second they give me, if they tease Alpha Academy, I'm gonna run away.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're as solid as it gets.
And I needed it.
Yeah, I think Alpha Academy are fine.
Good.
But with the bloodline imploding and with Imperium falling apart at the seams, I don't need Judgment Day also falling apart here.
Just let us keep the memories alive.
Let me have the nice thing. And speaking of nice things, I'm Luke Owen, DAD, and I'm joined by an even nicer thing, which is the Professor, the Truth, Dan Layton, Mr. Money in the Bank, Mr. Jam in the Jar, I should say. Or should I say, Senor?
No, I don't think I could pull off Spanish. I'm more like, if anyone can tell us what the Scandinavian word, like what's the Swedish for Mister? Yeah. I don't know. If you tell us. I know that boy is like rug. I don't know.
Rug.
Hedge. I did a little bit of Swedish on Duolingo. Either way, jam in the jar.
What would be the Mancunian way of saying
our kids with the jam in the jar?
Exactly. So it's our kids. Our kid jam in the jar here. Honestly, this Senor Money in the Bank thing can get in the bin.
Because Damian Priest is abundantly Puerto Rican. Like there's no question that this person is of Latin heritage, but Senor just feels a little bit like.
Here's the thing. Here's my take on this whole thing. I didn't actually bring this up in my edited review because I was already going long. I'd spent loads of time basically talking about Ricochet's failure to go viral.
Yeah.
My hot take on this is that this is quite clearly a Vince McMahon thing. And you can tell that it's a Vince McMahon thing because everybody kept saying it. Honestly, like one person said, Senor Money in the Bank. And I was like, oh, that's quite a cute little thing to say. And then in the next segment, two other people said it. And then there was a conversation between Kevin Patrick and Corey Graves about why they should, we should call him this. And every single person kept saying, send your money in the bank, send your money in the bank. And it's like, oh, cool. This is a Vince thing then, which is just, I have to say it 50 times in an episode so that's his new name.
The irony of all of that is that with that mustache, Vince looks more like someone who would claim to be Senor in the 1950s television world.
According to the chat, hair would be Swedish. Hair is certainly German.
Yeah, well, I mean, all these languages, the Swedish language is very... It's quite Germanic in that way of like.
Love the word Germanic.
Yeah, it's a great word.
It's a great word anyway. Yeah. Anyway, welcome to the WrestleTalk Podcast channel. This is our review of Monday Night Raw. Please, if this is your first time here, press the subscribe button, give us a little thumbs up as well, and leave a comment down below with what you thought of this week's episode of Monday Night Raw. And if you're watching live, get in your UltraChats to WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out all of them above the $5 level.
$5 US.
Yeah, none of your Canadian lark around here, Regina. As we're going to be talking about this week's episode of Monday Night Raw, which was the Judgment Day show.
Yeah, it really was, wasn't it?
I like it for that.
They were. I mean, I always like a consistency. I like a running thread through the whole show.
Same here.
We always used to get that back in the Attitude Era, and I think that it does make it feel like more of a cohesive piece. It's television. A plot, B plot, C plot.
Absolutely. And this was a show that started with the fracture of the bloodline that we saw last week, and Finn Balor coming out full of piss and vinegar to call out Damian Priest. And the show ended with them working together to pick up the win in their trios match and standing alongside each other. So the show is bookended as a narrative device and as a narrative plot that has progressed from where it was last week.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's all I want from a wrestling show.
Your basic stuff done well.
It's basic stuff done well, and they were peppered throughout the show. They were doing stuff with Rhea. They were letting you know about Send Your Money in the Bank. Yeah. They were letting you know about what Finn's wants and dreams are. I thought this was a really solid way to build and structure Raw. There's an argument to be made. There was probably a little bit too much of Judgment Day, but I would counter that. People like, well, what else is going on in Raw that would take them out?
This is it. I mean, I think the argument of there being too much Judgment Day was more the way that some of the backstage sequences I was a little bit like, you again? You keep popping up? And a lot of them happened very close together in that first hour. So I was a little bit like, goodness, all right, cool. That said, when you look at the show as a whole, it does make sense. And it is this kind of thing of Judgment Day runs Raw. Rhea is the world champion. You know, Finn is in the world title picture.
She was going around and letting them know, hey, look, we're going to win the tag titles. Or just let you know, don't step up to me.
She was saying, step out of the business. I think she was like, she's leaving. Please leave the tag. Oh, you mean the men's tag titles? I thought you meant the women's. Because there was a question about that last week. Ollie wondered whether or not she would find a partner or just take them both on her own. But yeah, there was coming in for the tag titles. She was there in the women's tag picture to let Raquel know to leave me alone kind of thing. It did make sense when you look back as the show as a whole. And I would like to put over, actually, we'll go into the details in a second, so I don't want to jump the gun, but from the off, there were lots of tiny little details here that I really appreciated that sold the story. So as Finn comes out, for instance, for the very beginning promo, we do open the show with the Judgment Day logo, the AI graphics, which are the only AI graphics I actually like. Is
there another one I like?
I kind of like Asuka's big masks.
I don't like the masks.
You don't like the masks?
Well, at least they're not faces, I guess. And the faces they can't do.
It's Becky's one that stresses me out. I can't deal with Becky's one.
It's a bit Rita Ora.
It's a bit unhinged, is what it is. It's a bit Rita Repulsa, more like.
Very good.
Thank you. But yeah, we opened the show with that. Finn comes out to Finn's music, right? And then Rhea comes out to the Judgment Day's music, rather, because they all have their own music.
Yeah.
But there was something about that little touch where it's like Finn is currently a man on his own outside of the Judgment Day group. Meanwhile, Rhea is wearing a Senior Money in the Bank shirt, which kind of is like, I'm taking this side in a subtle way. I'm not saying that they always do this, but if they're giving us these little touches of like, oh, that's interesting. I appreciate some attention to detail there, because it could have just been that Damien was wearing that t-shirt, you know, and that was
Rhea, she's playing Peacekeeper at the moment, and was successful in doing that today. And it felt like she was almost the master manipulator in this, which is, you know, like she kind of goaded Kevin and Sammy, so because they knew they were going to jump Seth before the match, they could run down, so that she can almost force them into working together.
Yeah,
I think if you were to sort of like, you could make an argument that was her plan for this show. I don't know if that was like the intent of the show, but certainly like looking back on it in hindsight, like, oh, I wonder if that's why they did this.
There's gonna like you know, when, I mean, it's not always the way, but you know, when like the
Speaking
Bloodline,
of the way,
hey, there's not.
Where are they?
Where are they? Wow, we'll get to that. There's a Bloodline bit. Kind of, so the thing with where Jimmy pinned Roman, and it was the whole.
Roman.
Excuse me, my apologies.
All right, Michael Cole.
Where like it was like Jade was the first person to get a pin on Roman, and there's almost people being like, God, it's like, no, that's just like a happy sort of coincidence. I don't think that was the plan from day one in any way. Or like, you know, the 3 years. I have my little thing about the idea of Roman losing the title at Payback because it was 3 years hence or whatever, which is like, I don't think that was the plan when they set out for him to win the title. But it's a little detail where you're like, oh, we can use that to our advantage. This is one where I'm like, imagine down the line, they do the we're going to remove you from Judgment Day like we removed Edge thing, and Rhea sides with Damien. You'll be able to look back on this and point to she's wearing that t-shirt. There's little details here and there that I kind of appreciate.
Where's JD?
Well, where's JD?
There's a lot of like Raw call-ups. Where's Odyssey Jones?
Don't worry about Odyssey Jones.
Like, what happened to The Way? I know you can make the argument like, well, Indy's injured and Johnny Gargano's like
has been injured.
Well, reportedly was, but it was shot down by 5-4 snakes.
Again,
and he's been fine for.
I'm going to ask you to put a pin in The Way, because we will come back to that.
We will come back to The Way, yes.
Because more pertinent is the JD McDonough thing, where I'm like interested in the idea that I don't know. It's like It's like now I almost feel like we were getting ahead of ourselves with the idea that JD might be the one to remove, and maybe we saw the steps a little bit too further down the line.
I don't think it's fair to point that on me.
No.
They told us.
This is what I'm saying.
The show was telling us that is an important plot detail, because Finn was watching him from the rafters like he was Sting Balor.
And then they had one conversation
they had a conversation about these very specific things ahead of Money in the Bank.
I just wonder if it's something that's coming, rather than something that's was immediately
absolutely. Well, absolutely. You can still have him feature on the show. It's more my point, because I would compare it to Hangman Page in the Dark Order. Like, they would do a lot of stuff with Hangman Page in the Dark Order, and then they would have no interactions on TV. I know they might have done stuff with Being the Elite on TV for months on end, and then they would just do some stuff where it'd be like, they were friends, remember? It's like, well, I haven't seen them on TV together for ages.
No, that's a very good point.
And like, my point with JD is that you could have JD do it, going out there and doing some matches. Well, you could have put him into a little mini storyline before he, before we tie him up into this storyline, as opposed to just keeping him off TV for 5 weeks.
It's funny because we do come back to that in another story later on in a different part, in the B plot of the show. So I agree with you on that one. Yeah, that's an interesting one. It is. Peculiar that he's not been around because it was set up. It was set up, and then it has just been dropped. But I do think that now we've got.
But it's not been dropped. That's not fair.
It's not been dropped yet. The Money in the Bank stuff has added an extra spice to this dissension, and it's in the back of my head. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that again. I'm not saying that this definitely was their intent, but the idea that I'm watching this stuff, seeing them, can they coexist? Oh, they towards the end of the show they've made peace. Back of my head's going. JD McDonagh said, "Don't."
But I think, again, that's us doing the legwork.
Right. But that's a fair point.
So Finn opened up this show to come out to talk about, like, he wants to have a chat with Senor Money in the Bank. And Rhea and Dom come out to try and calm him down. And Rhea wants to deal with this in the back. And Finn basically just, like, ignores the conversation, walks away from it, and he walks to the back. And Rhea used this as an opportunity to have a promo on Seth Rollins and calling out Seth Rollins for Dominic Mysterio. And Seth Rollins comes out with a plate of buffalo wings.
Because they're in Buffalo.
Because he's going to beat up Dom tonight. Yep. Okay. I know people got really mad at Ollie last week for saying that he is not a fan of this Seth Rollins character.
Well, it's interesting because I've been a fan of the Seth Rollins character, and then somehow I'm getting bored of it again.
Do you know what? I had a moment, like, spoilers, they lose in the main event. Seth does. One of the last shots is Seth looking really sad. And I went, good.
Well, it's just because it's getting reactions, and it clearly is. People are, but how much of that is people enjoying being in the group together singing the song, and how much of that is genuine love for the character? Do you know what I mean? Because and that not for nothing, it's good heat. He comes out and he's
people like him
singing. People are, at least you're getting a reaction. That's a good thing. And I'm just wondering. Is the laughing?
It's the laughing and acting like an asshole while holding a plate of chicken wings.
I don't even mind that because I can imagine a Chris Jericho in the year 2000 doing a similar thing.
You got to be a special level though. Like that's a very different kettle.
And so I'm wondering why. I think it's just that the laugh feels so incongruous with the world champion babyface now.
Great word use.
Thank you.
We're going to basically just cover all of the Judgment Day stuff here because it all does tie in together. Because we had Priest was backstage and Rhea said that they need to deal with this like men. And Priest says that he tried that, Balor wouldn't listen to him. And then we later got to see a couple of segments later with Finn having a chat with Damian Priest where it felt like they're getting on the same page. Like, we're going to wipe this slate clean. We're going to start again. And this is a good idea. But Priest also lets him know that, like, if you can't beat Seth, I've always got this, the Money in the Bank briefcase. Which works as two ways, which is like, hey, if you can't beat him, I can beat him in the Judgment Day title. But also, if you do beat him, I've also got this, which like Finn Balor was then trying to like process through this. Well, maybe we'll do all the Rhea stuff later when she has a chat with Raquel Rodriguez.
Well, this was because they immediately after that segment, the next segment was Kevin and Sammy.
That's right.
Which Rhea and Dom walked into. So I was like, oh, this is what I mean by saying it was a little too close together.
Yeah, because I've written here, someone was interviewing Sammy and Kevin.
She wasn't Kathy Kelly.
Who is she?
Do you not know this? So, you weren't here last week. So Kathy Kelly's been moved to SmackDown, RIP in peace to my feelings. And she's been replaced by, this is Jackie Redmond.
Her
name is Jackie Redmond. They didn't shout her out on screen. She just was. It's Jackie Redmond. She's an NHL commentator as well, or a sports journalist. She's, by all accounts, very talented. But the one thing she's not is Kathy Kelly.
No. Touchdowns.
No, that's hockey. She's NHL's hockey.
Yeah, that's touchdowns, right?
No, it's goals.
3 points.
Okay.
So Sammy and Kevin were there to talk about. They were open to all challenges. Hey, it could be Alpha Academy, Street Profits, could be Viking Raiders. They'd like to face anyone. And Rhea and Dom walk up. As at this point here, I wrote, they're all over this show. And Rhea mentioned that any version of Judgment Day could beat Kevin and Sammy for the title. So do you think at SummerSlam, it's Kevin and Sammy versus Dom and Priest, with Finn going for the world title against Seth? Or do you do the fun thing of Dom and Rhea?
My brain went straight to the fun thing. I don't think that WWE will do... But the problem is they keep teasing us with this idea of Rhea taking on the men, because my thing with China, right, was always the fact that
The wrestler.
Yes, we're not turning this into it. I mean, that's NRB's thing, Commonopoly. My thing with China, the wrestler, when I was younger, and part of the reason I find I love her so much was that I believed all of 10 years old that this woman could and would beat the man. Like when she was in a match, I was like, oh, she can just,
yeah, totally.
The wrestling wasn't great, but like I didn't know that was 10. And so it's this idea of if you present me with someone, I can believe that they can hang together in the ring. And I think I high-key believe that in a match between Rhea and Dominic Mysterio, now that I've said those words, that's what I want this storyline to end up
build
with.
to is Rhea versus Dom. Yes,
they break up.
That's the one. That's the hair versus hair match.
And that's an absolute... Oh my god, yeah, it is.
That's the hair versus hair match.
And it would be money, honey. I'm talking that's great. So I feel like, I believe Rhea could take him on.
Totally,
she's brutality. So I stop teasing us if you're not going to give it. I want you to give it to us, and if you do it in the right way, intergender wrestling's fantastic. But I think probably more likely it'll be Dom and Priest, and they won't get the win.
No,
but that'll be Dom's fault.
Yeah. And I think it'll be fine because I think Damian Priest will then cash in later on to win the title.
SummerSlam that quickly?
Win the title off of Seth, because Finn won't have won the belt.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then, in my sort of fantasy vision of this scenario is that Priest is there holding up the belt, and Finn Balor has to sort of not reluctantly, but it's just at least the team won, so he raised up the hand, but he's got that eye on his belt. But so's Dominic Mysterio.
Oh,
and that's the payback match. It's the Judgment Day triple threat.
And
the
Judgment Day triple threat, we're on the Shield.
Exactly, yeah. It's Dom versus Priest versus Balor.
And then so much fun because Dominic Mysterio is one of them.
And I told this to Ollie earlier, and he said, "With Rhea Ripley as the special guest referee," and I was like,
"You've done it.
That's
You've
it.
Done it.
That's now the perfect version of this."
That's so good.
So we were supposed to get Dominic Mysterio versus Seth Rollins. However, Dom attacked Seth before the bell. Balor and Priest jumped in to get involved. Owens and Sammy ran down to make the save. We're going to get a 6-man tag player, which we then got in the main event, which was Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Judgment Day. And this was a match that was all about Priest and Balor.
Yes.
So there was a moment where they almost collided. Not intentionally. It's just that, one of them turned around to pose to the crowd.
To mug.
And then someone nearly ran into him.
Seth pushed him into...
Exactly. So there was a lot of little moments like that. And they had some, awkward tags where they were there was a lot of, sighing of, fine, yeah, we'll do this. Yeah, we're on the same page, but really we're not. But all of a sudden, right at the end, something clicked in them. And they got back on the same page. And it was that moment when they nearly collided, it turned into Damian Priest getting hit with the pedigree, and Balor jumped in to make the save. And Rhea holds onto the foot of Sami Zayn as he set up to do the haluva kick. That leads to Damian Priest hitting Sami Zayn with the South of Heaven. Shout out to Slayer. And Balor went up top to hit the coup de grace for the win, pinning the tag team champions. Not that that's unique to. I think they've done that twice now. I think they pinned the tag team champions.
I don't like it, but at the very least you were hit by 2 finishes in a row, and I can imagine that being slammed on your back by Damian Priest and then having Finn Balor jump from the top ropes and landing on your chest would probably wind you enough to not be able to kick out. So at the very least,
I'm not saying it from that. My point is that they have.
They have done it.
They have pinned them before a couple of. I think
I'm
they've
just
pinned
not
them for
wild
a couple
on
of times.
pinning your champions, but. That got me in trouble yesterday. So,
but then they all hugged in the ring. Balor and Priest looked at each other and they hugged. And this was a moment.
There was a moment of staring.
Yeah,
and then they had a smile.
But this was a moment where it wasn't the uneasiness of the same page, the clean slate chat that they had earlier in the night. This was a genuine, the band's back together. We are the Judgment Day, and we are on the same page. But there is then just that sort of ... But for how long?
Right.
So where do you think? Do you think this runs past SummerSlam? Are we going into Payback? Do you have any sort of feelings, thoughts, vibes of where we might be going?
Given where we are now, I mean, my more fun thing would be for both. And I personally would have done it at Money in the Bank, but Finn and Priest having both the belt and the briefcase in the same unit is a far more interesting, compelling storyline to me. So I would have Finn maybe win at SummerSlam if that's where we're heading to, because it would be an ultimate redemption moment for Finn Balor. Finn gets to be the prince. Finn gets to be the leader again. He's like, I'm back to being where I was. I've got this. I'm the best kind of thing. But then you do have the little question mark of, but I could always do that. So that's probably where I would take it. I think that's a more compelling story. That said, you could go completely the other way and have, as you've said, have Finn lose and Priest cash in, and then that's where your dissension comes in. It's like, well, I had to step up, and maybe they kick him out the way they kicked Edge out. Maybe they let him stay in, but if Finn can't acknowledge him, to coin a phrase. I really liked how in the moment where they did have a reuniting, they were having a cuddle, Rhea and Dom were celebrating like they were seeing their parents get back together.
Yeah, Rhea was so happy. Like, she was beyond thrilled that her team won anyway. But then she was very, very pleased to see that her friends were back on the same page and hugging once again. And I think genuinely, Rhea's a star.
She's brilliant.
This group. She's so great.
Yeah, she's brilliant. She's their MVP of the entire brand, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm more compelled by this unit as a group, and I just think that if you don't take the World Championship and put it on the Judgment Day, they need to be removed from the world title picture for a while. Otherwise, everything feels a bit stale. So I feel like for me, it makes more sense. I would like to see them all as a unit go off and do their own main event thing and have other people come in and be like, don't worry, because if you lose your belt, it's one thing to be like, if you don't beat Seth, I'll get it. It's another thing to be saying, you could lose, but I've got your back. Yeah. Because that then puts the paranoia of the champion in place. And it's I think that's a far more interesting psychological story.
Also, it's a nice little sub as well because they're going to NXT tonight.
Yeah.
They're going to be on NXT to have a little chat with
Scout Carmelo Hayes.
With Mello Hayes and Trick. So I'll be curious to see what they're going to do there. But I thought overall, as like a backbone storyline that kind of like kept this Raw up, I really enjoyed it. Like it's obviously the Alpha Academy Maxxine Dupri graduation was the best thing on this show because it always is the best thing on this show. But I do think this was a very good, comfortable second place.
I think they did a good job.
Well, and maybe I'm just I'm being a bit easy here. I'm being a bit sort of like easy going on the show. But this was just a next step in a story. And there are some times when you get Raw episodes where there isn't that next step. And we talk about like it's not must-see TV. Like you don't have to tune in like, oh man, I need to tune in and see what the next chapter is.
Well,
but if you don't see this week's episode, when you tune into next week's episode, you're like, oh, well, something did happen on last week's thing then. That means that I did miss something. But there have been times certainly in the Vince era and in the Triple H era of Monday Night Raw, where if you miss an episode, you can tune in the following week and nothing has changed.
Yeah.
So it makes you feel even less like must-see TV.
Can I be a media studies student for a minute?
Oh, go for it.
I have been really interested in the conversation around the ratings recently because people have been talking about, Collision has debuted. It's on a Saturday. What does that mean for people's ratings? The Raw ratings of SmackDown. SmackDown last week just popped a humongous rating.
Yeah, 3 million.
3 million tuned in to see the Bloodline.
Just for the Bloodline segment, yeah.
Which is massive.
Massive.
More interesting to me, and it's really interesting that you brought up, I think, a more pertinent way of viewing whether or not a property is connecting with the fans. Because linear TV is different now. Laurie and I chat about this on the first Collision review. Linear TV is not the same as it used to be. The days of people sitting down and watching everything together aren't the same. A lot of the time, like I watch it in the morning.
As do I.
We have to because unless I'm feeling fancy and I want to stay up all night on a Monday. In America, often you probably could be, it's 3 hours on your Monday evening. You might just be flicking through the channels. You might not even be watching anything. You might have it on in the background. The way people watch TV is different than the way it used to be. There are so many more things to watch now. So the ratings...
And more distractions.
So the ratings aren't as concrete a way of measuring a success for show. More interesting, I think, are ticket sales and merch sales as well, whatever. But crucially, online. So when these clips are put on YouTube, when these clips are put on various different social medias, and I know that it's corporate speak through Kevin Patrick to hear about the social media followers and all the rest.
It's important, though.
But it is important because it's a really important metric to read.
It's a metric you can quantify.
Yeah, and when you're talking about things to make you tune into Raw, having moments that do well online, and the perfect example of this is the LA Knight thing. LA Knight wasn't on SmackDown this week. Did a segment pre the show, and it went on their YouTube channel. And because a lot of people consume their WWE in bite-sized form through YouTube, including myself in the past when I've been behind and I need to catch up,
It's a 3-hour show. It's a big commitment.
That's got millions of views. So to have something like this, a storyline through line, where you can recap it at the beginning of the show, you can give us a Bloodline segment so we can recap the SmackDown or whatever. But having a story like this on the YouTube channel is another way to get views and then perhaps get people, I want to see what happens next. So I think that is a really fascinating part of the development of wrestling as broadcast media.
I was chatting with someone yesterday. Was it yesterday? I was chatting with someone recently. Can't remember when it was now. It was recently. I know I was going to actually mention this to you yesterday because this is the sort of thing I know would interest you and it might interest a certain portion of the audience. But they said to me that wrestling is a really unique TV format in that it is a TV audience. It's a TV show that audiences pay to go and see.
Yeah.
Because shiny floor game shows and things like that are free.
Yeah.
And like panel shows are free. Like sitcom audiences are free. But like WWE, AEW, Impact, because of the way the sort of like bizarre sports / TV, like entertainment media that it is, it actually has an audience that pays to be part of the show.
It is interesting.
It is fascinating.
Because, I mean, to be a historian about it, when Bischoff took over WCW and set them up in the Disney MGM studios, they originally were just free. Same thing with Impact.
Impact was in the Universal Studios. Yeah, you basically, if you had a Universal Studios ticket that day, you could get into the Impact Zone to go and watch the wrestling. Yeah.
So like that's more traditional game show vibe.
Absolutely is. Yeah.
This exists in this weird parallel between like Premier League sport, where you do pay through the nose to go and see the show, and which you can watch on TV if you want.
But football or hockey or whatever, it is not about the footballers interacting with the audience.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Because or brawling through the crowd.
It lives in this weird... I've always tried to explain it to people when they have been like, how do you like that wrestling thing? And if they was like, yes, I know. It's a soap opera in front of a live studio audience of 12,000 people.
Yeah.
Like, it is interesting that people pay to go and see it and be a part of it. I know there are comp tickets. I know there are some people in hospitality or whatever. But it's because
the large majority are paid.
Yeah, and even and it's why it's so interesting to track and not even be like, this company's better than this company. It's just interesting to track when things are hot and when things aren't, because WWE couldn't fill stadiums but 3-4 years ago.
No, really struggle. You know, the
you see the hard cam side.
The hard cam side of the photos. It's kind of what the AEW photos that often get posted around now are those like empty hard cam sides where everyone's been moved around. Like, and it's just WWE don't have it because they are a hot product at the moment.
They are, and having been at SmackDown, that place was rammed. You know, it's a really interesting.
Sorry to cut you off. But what's interesting, I think, about that is that wasn't really like that wasn't an anomaly in the UK,
right? Yes,
because any time Raw or SmackDown was in the UK, we would always pack out.
We don't get it weekly
because we don't get it weekly. In America it was, but like in America now it's the same as in the UK, where it is a packed out crowd every single week. Like they're just like every show they're doing is like the biggest they've ever done in those areas,
and that's why it's all part of the same ecosystem. It's all this Judgment Day storyline, this Bloodline storyline, all of the different little parts of it. And that's why it's so important to have a strong undercard as well, because you want to get people in to see everybody cheering for everyone. If you have a hot product, if people are... It's more interesting than to look at, okay, how are they going to get people to buy a ticket? How are they going to get people to consume the pay-per-view? How are they going to get people to whatever? Using YouTube in this way, providing that exclusive clip of LA Knight, exclusive to YouTube and the live crowd, is really interesting to think I thought that was fascinating.
I think there's a very... we're going way off topic here,
but it's interesting.
This is the thing I find kind of sort of fascinating about the world of wrestling. But Meltzer was talking about this recently, that 3-4 years ago when AEW first launched, there wasn't really a crossover of audiences. There was a WWE audience and there was an AEW audience, and a lot of those people that had tuned out from WWE over the years because they'd felt disenfranchised by it, they felt that it wasn't catering to their needs, flicked on over to AEW because they had been sort of like, maybe they'd gone to the indies or whatever, or they've found some names that they recognize and have joined that show now. But they were broadly separate audiences. But since WWE has become a much hotter product, that crossover is now bigger because some of those fans that were there from AEW aren't watching that product as much anymore and are now either still watching it but are also watching WWE, or they've stopped watching this one and have just moved over.
It's why I can't abide tribalism because the products are so much better for both existing.
Yeah.
You know, AEW's maybe not going through its hot streak at the moment, but my God, when it was on a hot streak, wasn't it great? Do you know? And it'll come back. Like, it's so much better to have both because it gives us a smorgasbord, that's another Scandinavian word, of things to consume. You know.
Well, let's get into your UltraChats, your UltraNats on this. Please do get them in. WrestleTalk.com/support. We're kicking things off here with Matt, who said, I really enjoyed this run. A lot of great character work and direction set up for SummerSlam and Raw. It seems Rollins versus Balor will happen at SummerSlam, which is poetic, 7 years after Finn beat Seth for the world title, but was injured. I could see Finn beating Seth at the show, only for the rest of Judgment Day to come out and celebrate with him, giving the thumbs up that turns to a thumbs down, beating him up and setting up Priest cash in and giving Finn another short title reign, just like his first one, exactly the same in 2016. It also seems like Kevin and Sammy will be fighting Judgment Day at the event for the tag titles. I wanted it to be DIY, but it makes sense to be Judgment Day. Speaking of which, it seems like it was a setup for DIY reunion with the Miz and Reed pairing. I know some are upset with Reed being paired with Miz, but Reed has been established as a hired gun for the Miz in the past. 7 months ago, I would argue. He only helps if he gets paid. It's worth it if we get a DIY reunion or a Ciampa versus Reed feud, hoping for a DIY reunion. Yeah, we'll talk more about the Miz Bronson Reed thing in a little bit, because there are positives to be taken from it.
Yeah,
but it was a positive we were always going to get anyway, and it feels like this is the lamest way for us to get to this point.
Right. We'll talk about it.
And Chris here says it's off topic now, but with the news about Bray, I'm going to assume that. So with the news about Bray, what if he did it against Roman after his match at SummerSlam? With the news,
so I think I'm understanding what's going on. With the news about Bray Wyatt, I saw a tweet. So what Chris is saying is, with the news, what if he reappeared, made a return against Roman after his match at SummerSlam, in the same way Roman came back against The Fiend and Braun in 2020 and won the title at Payback, which is the next premium live event. It would be a full circle moment. So what Chris is essentially saying is, what if you have Bray return on Roman, and then at Payback, Bray wins.
But there's no reports of Bray coming back soon.
There was a report from Fightful that basically said it stayed the same, and I saw one tweet that essentially made this same point, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Then I went and checked whether or not Bray was...
Yeah, the report from Fightful Select is that he is dealing with... It's not an injury, it's a health issue.
It's an illness, yeah.
Yeah,
and there was a picture of him, and he seemed to be doing all right, and that was really nice to see.
But it's like there's no timetable for him to be coming back anytime soon. No. Which is not to say that he can't.
I was about to say exactly that.
Or he won't. Yeah. But I just want to make everyone abundantly clear, when you are reading things online, you make sure you are reading the words that are in the reports, which is that he's not well and he's dealing with this issue.
But also,
as opposed to sort of people doing then speculative fantasy booking on that and reading that as reports.
Yeah, Twitter was always an interesting place to try and get news anyway, and now that it's gone unhinged, it's an even more interesting place to try and get it, because anyone with $8 a month can get a blue tick, and that makes them look more legitimate than they, because we still have that in our brains. So I did see this report and I went, interesting, and then I followed it up. You always need to try and do the follow-up, try and cross-corroborate it elsewhere, but also ultimately it's an entertainment show where we are hoping for some spoilers. It could happen. It might not happen.
Not to say that it can't happen.
But, you know...
I just... Media literacy is something...
Even if it did... Yeah, it's my media studies thing. Yeah. Even if he did come back, I don't think giving the title at Payback.
No, I really would not be putting the title on Bray. Like, you want to talk about someone who is cold AF right now.
Cold as ice.
Like, this is a Jay story. Like, if you want to really get people turning on the Bray thing, putting the belt on him instead of Jay... Like, or
that'll do you.
That'll do you.
Do you think Jay's going to win the title?
Not at SummerSlam. I think Payback's a fun option.
Spicy, I do too.
But also, you know, the rumored plans for Mania is it's Roman Cody.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean the title has to be on Roman. Could you imagine?
Yeah.
Roman Reigns returns at the Rumble, and we've all the time been, oh my god, they're going to drag it out all the way. Cody wins the title, and then Roman goes, oh. Anyway, sorry, I'm going ahead of myself.
I was gonna say, if it's just Roman versus Cody with no belts.
No. Roman versus Cody, but Cody's the champ. And Roman wins the Rumble.
Oh, that's an interesting
one. I thought, well, it would be interesting if the titles... I don't think it will, but I was like, that if you're going to do that, a parallel would be more interesting.
I suppose it's interesting because, like, really, what does finish the story actually mean? Like, is it just winning the belts, or is it beating Roman? Is that the story?
Well, speaking of finish the story, should we get onto the show, because we can finish the story, because we even got elsewhere on the finish the story. There's a finish the story lore now, like.
So we had the Judgment Day opening, and then our first match was Drew McIntyre and Matt Riddle taking on Imperium. This is Drew's first match since WrestleMania. Drew McIntyre is the third new best friend for Matt Riddle. And they got the win here by pinning Giovanni Vinci. It was a funny little match. It built to 2 different Drew hot tags.
It really did. Did you like the match?
I thought it was okay.
I did too,
Yeah. I like watching Drew wrestle.
I do too. And isn't it nice how refreshed he seems?
Yes, and I like watching Matt Riddle wrestle,
Yeah.
and so this was all grand for me. And then after the match, it was like Gunther sort of berated Giovanni Vinci, and Ludwig Kaiser looked at him very disappointed, and he also walked away.
Did. There were 2 really nice gut wrench suplexes from Matt Riddle in a row, like the keep the German going, and I was like, interesting. You're gonna just ragdoll him a little bit. That's fun. Drew looking great off the tag was quite fun because it gave you, for me, it's give people time off. Let them heal up a little bit because you carry these bumps and bruises the whole time and you just plow through. Let people have some time off. They get a hot return and they feel more refreshed about it. So it's a good match. Oh, that drop kick. The drop kick that sent Riddle essentially spinning off the apron was lovely. And it was all of that stuff, especially from Imperium, that made me so frustrated with this potential
Breakout of the group.
Because I don't want that. No. I'm all right with it if it's Gunther being like, the mat is sacred. We're going to need to train you up again. Yeah. Go back into the Stu Hart dungeon, kind of, or their version of that at the dojo. Because do I see a solid singles run for Giovanni Vinci?
No, I do not.
So I keep them together because they're far better as a unit.
They are better as a unit. Not that they pick up wins ever.
But this is the interesting thing because I like Imperium. I want them to be this dominant team, so it's more impressive when they get a win. But I actually weirdly contradicted myself here, and I was annoyed at myself because I like to be. But in this match, I was like, oh yeah, you being the hired goons that batter, like Team Rocket Grunt or whatever, that take the fall. But when you look this good, it is kind of all right. Yeah. I don't love it, but also I don't want them to split.
No, I did not want this group breaking up. They announced that Fastlane will be taking place on October 7th. We then got a long recap of the Tribal Court segment from SmackDown. Then we got the Kevin Owens Sammy stuff. Then we got this promo for Indus Sher.
Yeah.
Who, the promo was about like, hey, we're coming. And I was like, lads, I saw you on TV not that long ago. But I genuinely did forget they were part of the show because they haven't been on TV for a number of weeks now.
And also they rattled off all the teams that could potentially take on Sammy and KO, and Indus Sher weren't in them.
But this promo was so funny. It was hilariously rubbish.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was supposed to make them look cool, but it made them... for me, this was well lame.
I think I can see that. I think it didn't do anything for me.
Not all the lightning?
No.
The lightning in the rain and all that nonsense?
Sure. I think it's because they have no character, right? And so as a
foreign heel. What more do you want?
Well,
foreign savages. All right, there's another one. I've given you 2 characters for them now.
I just don't. It wasn't lame because it wasn't anything for me. I was like, And I want everyone to have a great gimmick.
But I feel like it's now a bit.
Yeah.
The Veer Mahan is coming thing, even WWE's own Twitter account are getting in on the act of being like Indus Sher coming. I think now it is just being done to get this reaction.
I suppose.
Of lol, they're still coming.
Yeah.
But that's also not a character.
Lol. I'm not lolling.
Then we got the Dominic and Seth bits and bobs. Then we got what was a very heavily promoted segment on the show because it is Logan Paul on the same day as a big controversy scandal for the man himself because
I haven't really read into what's going on.
So Prime has got as much caffeine in it as 6 bottles of Coke.
That size bottle of Coke?
Yes.
Christ.
Yeah. It's dangerous to actually drink and consume.
As opposed to all of the other perfectly healthy energy drinks.
Well, okay, so it's got two cans of Red Bull in 1 can of Prime.
Ugh, the come down.
And I was joking in the office yesterday because like Prime, I now can't move for it. Like it's being sold everywhere I go. That I was going to buy some, for us to do on a live stream or something, because, lol, look, it's well, not even just a punishment, but lol, look, it's the stupid drink that the silly man promotes. But now I was like, actually, I don't want to put my any members of staff through that.
This was a a moment in this promo where Logan takes a selfie with a tiny little child holding a bottle of Prime, and I was like, "Oh, get him in. We're gonna a generation of kids who are addicted."
I was going to say the little toddler that was at ringside. It was like, I found the one person that's cheering for me, and he's 3.
Yeah,
this bottle of energy drink and stuff. But anyway, so Ricochet came out for his promo. So Ricochet does not get a lot of mic time.
No.
They do not afford him that because he's not a promo guy.
No.
He's a flip guy.
Yes.
He does the cool wrestling spot, and that's what people get into it.
Yes.
But because he's going to be in a feud with Logan Paul, who is a very good promo guy, you need to go and give Ricochet the promo time. So I like that they did that. I'm going to use the word applaud. But man, they gave him nothing here. Like, to actually work with. He came out and was just like, I'm a good guy.
Yeah.
And I like to wrestle for each and every one of you. I just hope that at the end of a night, you can say that you saw a nice Ricochet match. And I'm like, what? This is not how. Who are you? You're not a real person.
Also, sod off.
Yeah, it's pandering nonsense. Like, this is not a way to get people on Ricochet's side.
No.
Case in point, Logan Paul comes out, and Logan Paul essentially reminds us that that was not a great promo, or basically tells us that wasn't a great promo. And like Ricochet, was like,
well, that sucked.
Yeah, and then Ricochet was like, well, no one really wants you here, bud. And so Logan Paul, and I think someone needs to have a word with Logan Paul about deviating from script to get yourself over, because the first thing he did was like, look, this kid's literally cheering for me. And like when they go take a selfie, it's like, so okay, so you're undermining.
In the middle of your promo, they're all talking about me.
Exactly, because then Ricochet starts doing another promo, and the crowd chanting "Logan sucks," and Logan talks over Ricochet talking over the crowd to be like even during your promo, they're talking about me.
Yeah,
and it's I don't think this is helping Ricochet in any way. Also, it doesn't help Logan Paul much either.
Well, I see your point, and I agree with it. I think the only not counter so much as it is a sort of addendum to it is that I think what's not helping Ricochet more than Logan Paul is the promo he was handed. Because if he comes out with a little bit of fire under his belly and is like, you know what, I like throw myself around this ring and I do all these things. You know why? Because I love this business and I love performing. And you went on your little podcast there and you chatted to all your followers and you made fun of this industry and me by proudly saying that you don't know what you're doing. So get out here and let's talk about this.
Yeah.
A little bit of fire,
a little bit of
passion,
a little bit of substance to it.
Because there's something heelish about Logan Paul being like, they're all chanting for me in the middle of your promo. Because they're not chanting for him. There's a delusional element of that. That's, you know.
But it's the John Cena argument of the reason why John Cena was, perceived to be as over as he was, is because the chant was "Let's go Cena, Cena sucks." It wasn't "Let's go Cena, let's go other guy."
Yeah, right.
It was like every chant's about Cena.
Yeah.
So really, Cena's the only person that's over in that match.
I think that makes sense, but I think there's something about, because Ricochet is just the flippy guy, and that really is all we know about him. I was like, oh, we're getting a Ricochet promo. Cool. He's already, I kind of don't blame the fans for not being fully behind him while he's got a mic in his hand. I remember when he was early days in NXT, the bit where he does the run out of the ring and jump over and does a square up. I was like looking forward to that part because that part was going to be cool. That's the moment where I was like, Logan needs to be reined in a little bit, because banter you off, and then he comes out and is like, say it to my face, I've just flipped out of the ring, and I'm this good. Logan saying that's great for TikTok is an undermining of that moment.
Yeah,
I think Logan selling that a little bit presents us with an interesting thing. So yeah, I think it was more on Ricochet not being so great in the promo than it was on Logan. And
I think it's a lot of I see that. I think that it's the material doesn't help Ricochet in this at all. I think Logan just I don't want to use the word going into business for himself, because there's every way that this was structured, but it came off like he was designed to undermine a lot of what Ricochet was doing, and that's not what we needed in this segment. So that is either on Logan Paul or that's on the creative. Either way, I don't think it's great.
Because it came in a little bit with the LA Knight stuff on SmackDown, and I think almost, as in when he was with LA Knight, I think it's almost that thing of he's so excited.
Yeah.
And he's getting in what are inarguably good lines. But in wrestling, it's a fine balance, right? Yeah. So it's like he's excited, he's come up with this line with this promo, he's going to say it, and he's going to, and it's because you want to punch him anyway.
And also,
just that I think it's that thing of like, because he doesn't do it that often. It's the overexcitedness of it. Pull it back a little bit.
Yeah. There's also an argument to be made that you should always be putting over the person that you're facing in promos, because if you beat them, then you've beaten nobody.
You're right.
One of the greatest promos ever, promo video packages ever, is like Royal Rumble 2000 is the best example I would show of this, because that is two guys talking about how great I am and how great the other person is. It is Triple H being like, you're the hardcore legend. You're the guy that had his ear cut off. You're the guy that was in barbed wire death explosion matches over in Japan. And it's Cat Jack being like, you're the game. You're the WWF champion. You're the best in this business. And then I'm the hardcore legend. I'm the man. I'm this. I'm the future WWF champion. It's like, I'm the game. And it's putting yourself over as well as putting the other person. So when Triple H beats him, spoilers, at Royal Rumble 2000, he's beaten a person who sounds awesome.
It's the same thing with, and that's, I always point to this one. It's Triple H selling him, revealing that he's Cactus Jack now.
Yeah.
It's like, Mankind's not ready to face you in a street fight. Ha ha ha. I've been making a joke out of you for a whole month. Well, I'm going to take my mask off and go to this place.
I think I know a guy.
And if Triple H laughs at that, that moment's over.
It's so good.
And that's what I think Logan Paul was doing after the flip, which was a shame.
It is a shame, yeah. And like, so Ricochet does the flip spot that he did during the Velveteen Dream feud in NXT. It didn't feel as cool as when he did it in NXT that first time. The crowd did not react to it as much as they did when they did it in NXT. It wasn't filmed as well as when they did it in NXT. And he stumbled a little bit on it, so it didn't look as good. And I said this in my edited review. I feel like WWE are desperate for this feud to go viral, and that's why they're doing this, is because they think this can be a viral feud, because that's what Ricochet, that's how he came to prominence, was going viral as a wrestler with his matches with Will Ospreay. So I think that's what they want for this to be. They want him and Logan Paul to have that viral moment, and it didn't work at Money in the Bank, and it's not worked here either. I feel like we're going to get to a desperation point on this feud to try and make this be a viral thing.
I had a viral moment in the summer of 2017 that was cleaned up by people at the Dean Street Express. It's a sexual health clinic, Luke.
It's very good, Dan.
Thank you.
So I think the segment was mostly fine. But like, so when Ricochet did his bump, terrible Kevin Patrick commentary. He went, oh my God.
Kevin Patrick and Corey Graves got on my nerves this week. Plot twist. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Did you see that?
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Awful. I did laugh when Logan Paul said that Ricochet was 90% forehead. That was. We got Becky Lynch versus Zoey Stark. So it had been reported earlier in the day that Becky Lynch was dealing with a minor injury. This match had actually been removed from WWE.com as saying it wasn't happening anymore, but then was put back on to say that she turns out she was cleared to wrestle this match. And I'm glad for it, because this was very good. Becky, like, the crowd weren't really into it.
Yeah. We got a tweet.
We did.
We got a tweet.
We got a tweet from someone who was in the building and said, I'm very sorry that our crowd was bad tonight.
Yeah.
So
I thought in this match, this is where you could see it.
You could really, he could hear. And Becky was doing her darndest to get people into this match. I thought they did a fun little bit of Becky having to deal with both Zoey and Trish on the outside, like overcoming interference. The block of the Z360 I thought was really cool. But Becky took her eye off the ball for just one moment, and it cost her dearly, as Zoey Stark got a roll-up and pinned Becky Lynch. Very big win for Zoey Stark here.
Yeah, I loved this segment. I went back and watched it twice, because the first time I watched it, I was a little bit underwhelmed. I think I was too focused on the crowd, and so just before we came back on, I wanted to watch the match again, because I was reading other people's takes, and a few people were like, oh, they actually sort of lumped each other in this one. They went for it. I was like, okay, well, I'll give it another watch. And actually, on second watch, it was a really decent little match. I think Becky did a lot to try and give Zoey not only some moves, not only to get some offense in, but also to look like she was still taking her on and it wasn't a squash, which I think makes her look like a competitor, which I think is really good. There was she did a missile dropkick springboard thing that looked fantastic. But Becky also got some pretty stiff shots in. I thought there was another sort of somersault springboard thing that Zoey did that looked great. And it was this addition of Trish at the end that I think really gave you space to be like, it's the numbers game. You know, it is still stealing a win. It's a perfectly legitimate move. She wasn't pulling the tight. She wasn't holding onto the rope, but it was still stealing a win. So I think if the point of this feud is to get a new star over, giving Zoey matches like this, following on from what I thought was a really good entry into the women's Money in the Bank match, that's gonna work. The question now is, what's next? Will it's Lita to even the numbers?
That's what I'm thinking.
Which I love because I'm excited to see Lita.
Also, she was part of the story right at the start,
and it makes sense. I couldn't help but think though, it's a shame that is the logical storyline, that it should be that, because it could be used to put someone else over as well. Becky could find herself an alliance with a new star.
Okay, that's interesting.
Not even necessarily a new star. A Piper Niven, a Tegan Nox, someone who is there kind of just to fill up the numbers. But we're doing a pretty decent, I think, job of getting Zoey Stark some momentum. We could put that rub on someone else as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it will be Lita, and I'm going to be excited when I hear the music.
Yeah, so. I mean, because I think Becky and Lita versus Trish and Zoey Stark, I think is a very fun match. Like, whether you do Trish and Becky as a singles match at SummerSlam and then you do the tag match at Payback, I think you might going in that direction. And also then because you get that moment of Lita and Trish being on opposite sides of the ring again.
I think it would be fun to have Lita return at SummerSlam.
Yeah, that's what I would. Yeah. I would do Lita returning at SummerSlam to build the match, then to do the tag match at Payback. Yeah. Seth was chatting with Sami and Kevin Owens, coming up with their strategy for their 6-man tag tonight, and their strategy is we'll beat them up,
batter people.
Then we got the best thing on the show. What is always the best thing on these shows?
I agree.
Maxxine Dupri's graduation in the Alpha Academy.
When this graphic popped up, I cheered.
Same thing.
Yeah.
I was genuinely so thrilled. I wrote, in fact, look, recap of Maxxine from last week. She's graduating tonight. So Chad there did the whole shush, thank you, to say that he was very proud of his student, the first female graduate of the Alpha Academy. And just when you think there's no way this act can get any more perfect, he introduced Maxxine Dupri as a model student.
The model student.
The model student. All caps I wrote here. He calls Maxxine the model student.
Beautiful.
It's so great. And then Maxxine comes out in this pink graduation robe.
Elle Woods.
Kevin even said she's a modern day Elle Woods. A rare bit of good Kevin Patrick commentary there. And Maxxine, so great in this role, because she gets to do her graduation speech. It was like, Chad, the first time I saw you, I thought you were a disgusting little troll man. But now I see you're an excellent coach and, dare I say, a good friend.
Yeah, loved it.
And the fans are so into this, start chanting, you deserve it.
It's the only time I've ever been happy to hear a you deserve it chant. I loved that.
But she turns her attention to Otis, always calling him Otis as well, and says that he is her muse. And he is the reason why she is there. Without him, this would not be possible, and we are just getting started. Yeah. So they hand over the diploma, but there's one more thing. Oh. It got a bit sketchy here for a minute when I thought the chat was going to be like, you have to take off that robe.
Well, because there'd also been a dick joke.
Yes. Well, there'd also been a prison sex joke during the... So the Dom and Rhea thing... Rhea said... Dominic Mysterio got so much cardio done when he was in prison. He's ready for this. And Kevin was like, Sam was like, did she mean like this? And Kevin was like, what? And it's like, so he whispered into her ear. Like, it's a bit, I don't know, I feel it's a bit sketchy to be doing like prison rape jokes, but hey, it's 2023, I guess. I guess it's just cool to do these things now.
That's
but
so silly.
Very silly. But yeah, and then I was like, when they had this moment here, and he'd left the pause for it as well. And I was like, this feels like the Attitude Era, or worse, the Ruthless Aggression Era, which I will go on record as saying was way more exploitative of women than the Attitude Era.
But then so was the 2000s.
That's the Ruthless Aggression Era.
Yeah, no, I mean the 2000s
in general.
Yes,
agreed. But yeah, so he says she has to take off her hat and her gown, and she'll wear the last jacket she's ever going to wear.
Did you see Otis putting on his jacket? Yeah. That was a piece of magic.
Because Otis took off his graduation stuff to reveal he was wearing the smallest Y fronts, the smallest pair of pants. It was so great. And somehow put on a jacket in the most comedic way possible.
So good.
It was awesome. And then those dastardly Viking Raiders came out and they caused a distraction. Valhalla attacked Maxxine Dupri from behind, and they stole the jacket.
And then Otis yelled, "That's her jacket, you animal!" This is real cinema. You can keep your Bloodline Martin Scorsese drama. I want Legally Blonde. This is what's going on.
And this is why I'll be seeing Barbie on day one.
That's
and not
what I'm
Oppenheimer.
talking about. There you go. We're all here for it.
This is cinema.
Beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff.
So good. I was thoroughly entertained by all of
Yeah.
this. I was thoroughly entertained by all 6 people in this. They're doing a Vikings rules match next week.
What does that mean?
I think they've done Viking rules matches
can't
before,
remember.
but I'm delighted for it. I want to see more of this on TV.
Give him a big SummerSlam spot. There's your main event right there.
Well, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I want a big SummerSlam match for this.
I think an early SummerSlam match would really, would pop the crowd in a big way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm doing a lot of spoilers for the 3 count that will be released this coming Friday. But my big thing is when the Alpha Academy pick up the win, Chad Gable, in all of the excitement, accidentally kisses Maxxine and realizes what he's done and has like a proper oops moment where he was Maxxine's surprised, Otis standing there, shocked at Coach, and you fade to black.
Oh, I don't want them to break up, Luke.
I mean, I don't want this act to break up either, but I feel like we're heading for a love triangle here.
Do you know what I do want? I do want their next opponents after the Viking Raiders to be maximum male models with a new model.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they have just been dropped from this story.
And there's plenty of people. Call up Tiffany Stratton.
We had Shayna Baszler very quickly tapping out Emma. Lol, sucks to be Emma, I guess. And then Ronda came out and brawled with Shayna. And this week it was Ronda that stood tall.
I think this week it was like, since she's on the way out, I think they're going to have a decent match. I think Ronda got in a decent little drag in there. And I think she's had a non-existent run this time around. So since that's what she's going, we believe. So I think it's enough to pull out something really special for her last match, because I think it will be. I don't know if she'll come back again.
Ronda Shayna, I think Ronda will come back again.
Do you think?
I think Ronda will tease UFC runs, but will eventually go back to WWE.
If not, give us a good match with Shayna, and I think they can deliver it.
And put her over as well, which I think she will do. Cody came out for his promo to say that, hey, look, we're selling out every show we're in, which is true.
Yep.
And he talks about that, well, he's feuding with Brock. So he talked about Brock, and then he wants a match with Brock at SummerSlam. Yep. This is a segment.
Weekly segment.
This is a weekly segment, and it only ever really moves forward if Brock is there.
It does, yeah.
And when Brock isn't there, it's just the same Cody promo.
Well, I think it's tricky because we know it's coming, right? It makes sense to us because we've been watching wrestling for so long. And he told us. But like
4 weeks ago that's what we were going to be doing.
Yeah. So we know it's happening. So it's boring to wait for it to happen. And as a result, what I'm now saying is I need a stipulation for this rubber match.
I think it's Fight Pit.
I was going to say Steel Cage. Fight Pit works as well. I don't know if Fight Pit works in a giant stadium. Maybe. Steel Cage might be more au fait for that. But I want that.
And also, Cody bloody loves a steel cage.
He bloody loves it.
Loves
Caged animal, you can say caged beast, all of that stuff. My funny thing about this particular segment was that he talked about finishing this chapter. And I appreciate that, because that is bringing us down to micro levels.
Yeah.
Right? So we've got to finish the story, but you have to finish a chapter. So I want his next view to be like, finish the sentence.
And I think this chapter is we're going on a bear hunt.
You can't go over it.
He said, he goes like, there's a mountain in my way. You'll know his name is Brock Lesnar. I've tried to go around him. I've tried to go under him. I've tried to go over him. Oh, no. We've got to go through him. And so I did write for my edited review. We're going on a Brock hunt.
Nice.
But I was short for time.
Yeah.
We then got The Miz versus Tommaso Ciampa in a no DQ match that was filled with modern day fans chanting for tables 90 seconds in. So, but they did the good heel.
What do you mean by modern day fans?
Well, Attitude Era fans chanted at the Dudley Boys because it was their gimmick.
Now there's a match where there's a possibility for tables. We chant it all the time.
Yeah. But they did the good heel spot. If you're going to have a crowd, and you're always going to have a crowd, chanting for tables 90 seconds into a no DQ match, you can have great heel moments here, where the babyface gets the table out, the heel stops them, and then the heel puts the table back in. It's simple economics.
And The Miz does it very well, doesn't he?
Well, I think it was backup Hangman.
Yes or no question. Does he do it well?
What, playing it as a very...
Does The Miz do his job very well?
Does The Miz do his... Yes.
Thank you. Move on. Thanks for watching the show, everybody. No, we're doing it on purpose. They'll think we're actually...
Yes, he is very good at being a bog standard heel.
Thank you. That's all I wanted.
So it was backup Hangman. I think it was backup Hangman on Twitter. I apologize if it was not. Said that The Miz is on a career high of 5 good TV matches in a calendar year. They hit each other with plunder, and it was very fun. And like there was Tommaso Ciampa did like his running knees into the corner with the trash can that was also fun.
Mm-hmm.
They did an air raid crash through the table.
Oh.
That was fun.
Yeah,
this was good fun stuff.
It was a really decent match. I had a laugh with it.
And as Tommaso Ciampa was getting the pin, Bronson Reed pulls Tommaso Ciampa out of the ring, beats him up, hits the tsunami, and The Miz pins him. And they were doing their darndest on commentary to make it feel like, oh, well, this is what always happens. Bronson Reed's always a hired gun. He's always available to the highest bidder. It's only happened twice since he's come back, one of which was when he came back in December of last year. And now here, 7 months later.
But who did he come and help out 7 months ago?
It was The Miz, which was paid off into nothing.
Long-term story.
No, Dan. No, Dan. There is a difference between long-term story and a story that takes a long time to tell.
Started telling it then?
Or forgotten characters that you just bring back.
Yeah, I did. It was an odd one. And I was watching it next to you.
You laughed.
I did. It was so stupid. I think because I was happy to see Bronson Reed. I was expecting this to be the pin. But then for you to, I think I just grabbed you and I was like, they remembered 7 months.
7 months ago.
Yeah, they remembered it.
I had to go to Wikipedia to double check. Yeah. I was like, when did they last do this?
Yeah.
And it was 7 months ago.
I mean, look, they remembered whatever. It's at the very least a level of consistency. Ciampa coming back and taking on The Miz makes sense narratively. Bronson Reed had that brief hired gun moment with The Miz. Makes sense enough because we are looking for a way to bring back Johnny Gargano and have DIY. And so it turns out that the Miz Card Vortex has a tag team division as well.
Okay, do you know what I'm going to do?
Please.
I guarantee you there was a better pitch made for the DIY reunion.
I think so too.
I guarantee you there was a much better pitch made for the DIY reunion that Vince changed, and this is what we got instead.
Well, we can pinpoint exactly when it was, because it was the night of Ciampa's return, because he was supposed to take on... Were we doing the show together?
We did the show. We speculated that it might be Johnny Gargano that would answer it.
We had confirmation that it was, in fact, supposed to be Ciampa answering the open challenge.
Did we have confirmation on that?
Sean Ross Sapp on Fightful, and then it was elsewhere as well, was that was originally the plan, and then Vince came in and ripped everything up, and so that's why the open challenge got bantered off, because apparently there was a I'm 95% I'm aggregating this correctly, but there was a plan. Double check me. I'm pretty sure that there was a plan in place, and actually they had a finish to the match that everyone was really happy with, and then it because Gargano was backstage in Cleveland.
He wasn't. He tweeted out that he was backstage in the building.
I believe the plan was for Ciampa to take on Rollins, and then they had a finish all worked out. They were all very happy with the match. Then Vince came in and ripped it up, and it made a lot of people very angry. So that's why we got Ciampa coming back against the Miz.
Because we got that was the episode with the very messy first half hour.
Yeah,
and they did the Finn attacking Rollins stuff instead. So well, yeah, I don't know, but but
that's I think that's where the DIY thing was going to come from.
Yeah, we'll certainly see. I don't recall that being the actual sort of confirmed reports. I thought it was just more speculation than it was anything else. But I might be wrong on that one. But anyway, I thought this was hilarious that it was Bronson Reed helping out The Miz here. I think this is a pretty lame way of doing it.
Right there, Dan Layton, the truth. Does my research.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, and Tony was listed as TBA versus was changed to have Rollins attack Ciampa and face The Miz. That's where it was changed to.
Yes. So originally it was supposed to be Ciampa taking on Seth Rollins, and I believe that's where we was going to start to get the seeds of DIY.
There has been it says there has been an internal plan to reunite Ciampa and Gargano was backstage, but he wasn't planned for the show by the time it rolled around. So what's saying It was just Ciampa. Ciampa was going to do the open challenge, but it wasn't guaranteed. It hasn't been reported that it was going to be the DIY reunion
that night. But I believe that it would have been somewhere around.
That's what I figured.
Story.
That's kind of where I was going with my I guarantee.
Yes,
there is going to be a report where there was a better pitch made.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I think this is a pretty lame way of getting to a DIY reunion. But at least we get a DIY reunion, so there is that. Liv and Raquel were hanging out backstage, and Green and DeVille were having a chat with them about their tag match next week, where I do think they're going to win the titles.
I agree.
Because Rhea Ripley walked up to Raquel to tell her to stay out of my singles business. You do your little tag thing here. Well, she said, like, you got into my business, that's strike one, and then you get into my thing, that's strike two. Third strike, and you're out. And Chelsea Green goes up behind Ripley and goes, basketball. Chelsea Green's stealing my gimmicks. Look, Chelsea Green, I think you're a tremendous wrestler and a tremendous talent. But do not steal my gags. I implore you, do not steal my material. This is my bread and butter, thank you very much.
It's all he's got.
This is all I have. I'm not a funny person. And it led to Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green beating Kate and Carter in the other one. It seemed rather redundant because they beat them last week, and the crowd reacted to this accordingly, and they won quickly.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just checking whether or not Raquel Rodriguez was a Raw superstar, because
they got drafted to Raw.
I couldn't remember if they got drafted to Raw or SmackDown, but yeah, she'll be taking on Rhea, I think, is what's likely to come next. I don't know why I hated the tag team turmoil match last week. It was so bad, like from a booking perspective. The final two, decent, but the match as a whole was just a complete and utter slobber knocker. Not a slobber knocker, bowling shoe ugly-esque show. But here, so this should have been the championship opportunity. At the very least, we have teams who have joint entrances now.
Dan was very excited about this in the office.
I just need tag teams to come out together. The only ones I'm allowing are Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, because they both have the best themes in the business. Sorry, Cody. But I think having the Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green, I talked about this around the draft. I wanted the tag division to have some form of oomph behind it. We've got the Party Girls, who have got their little spray going on now, so they've tried to amp their entrance up a little bit. We've got Sonya and Chelsea. They both have the same entrance thing. Liv and Raquel coming out to one of their music, but they have Liv and Raquel. That works for me. We're getting tag teams.
The broad stroke basics of it is a screen with their names written on it.
Do you know what? But it is basic stuff. But at least it's happening. It means that the tag division is being given some energy, and I think the Karens should win it because they are a proper full-on tag teams, and I would like to see what they do. And I think Raquel versus Rhea is a great SummerSlam match.
I think there's a great opportunity you can have here. I didn't pick up on this. A shout out to Alex, Queen of the Ring, who highlighted this. But Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green's entrance is, it says Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green. On one side is Sonya Deville in her suit attire.
Yes.
And on the other side is Chelsea Green, dressed as Chelsea Green.
Yes.
And Alex, Queen of the Ring, said, it's Oppenheimer and Barbie.
It is! That's so funny.
Anyway, they won. And then backstage, Saxton interviewed Drew McIntyre and Matt Riddle, where they were like, bro buddy.
Yeah,
so they're going to go party with
were.
each other. And I was like, you're not Elias or Randy Orton.
They did the same thing last week. The exact same thing. So their new gimmick is winning matches or making a big statement. And they're going, we're in local area. Shall we go and eat local cuisine?
It's AEW Fight Forever. The Road to Elite mode. And then the main event we've already talked about, which was the trios match. I was going to be Riddle versus Gunther next week with Imperium barred from ringside.
You called him Ludwig. Ludwig and Giovinci. Great. Good luck. Good little bit of comedy there.
3 out of 5 episode.
Yeah, I generally really liked it. I think it was not anything to massively write home about, but I think there was a lot of little stuff that I really liked. Some decent matches. So yeah, 3 out of 5.
Yeah, it's funny. There was someone in the chat before we went on air that said like, I don't know why Luke hated this episode. I thought it was really good. And I was like, I don't know how people thought I hated this episode. I gave it 3 out of 5. Like,
3 is above average.
3 is above average. It is a good score. This is it's a standard good episode of Triple H era Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
Nothing.
It was and actually I'd say it's better than normal because often it can book quite bland TV where there's not a level of consistency.
At least there was something to move forward here.
I think there was consistency here.
Head on over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Become one of our Pledgehammers over there to get exclusive, cool content. Like tomorrow, it will be WrestleTalk Behind the Scenes podcast. The week after that will be WrestleTalk After Dark. And then the week after that, Ollie Davis and I reviewing TNA Victory Road 2009, our third straight TNA show from the same time period, no less. And here's the one with Jenna Maraska versus Sharmell, the -5-star match. I'm very, very excited to be reviewing that. And we've got other great content over there. Uncut versions of our No Holds Barred series. Go and see Dan in full length of time make his great blunder on, not Telestrations, on... Wavelength.
Yeah. Look, I made a mistake. I tried to play the room, and I read the room basically just completely wrong.
We've got herd mentality going over there. We've actually got new episodes of No Holds Barred coming very, very soon. So there'll be uncut versions of those going up as well. So head on over to
producer Rich editing them before.
Yeah, because we filmed. I'm only on one episode this time round.
Well, we had to come and do our weekly appointment with you lot.
We came to spend time with you guys instead.
Yeah.
But yeah, so head on over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk. If you're one of our $25 and above Patreon Pledgehammers, you get your name read out on this fine show like these fine folks. The WrestleTalk's personal problem solver, Jamie Donovan.
Spoken class today, Jeremy Smith.
John Jenkinson, son of Jenker.
Jordan Mother effin' Hawksworth.
The singing luchador, Joseph Santana.
The voice of the ring, Josh Roberts.
Breaking news, Justin Edelheit.
The heir to the throne, Kate Ayers.
Up above and Keith below.
Stella Keller O'Brien.
Always leave the crowd wanting Brian Moore.
And pick him up, Lootspun.
Thank you very much. That is our Hall of Fame class for the 11th of July, 2023. Thank you all so much. Head on over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk to get involved. Right, let's head into the rest of your UltraChats and see what you had to say about this episode of Monday Night Raw. And we're kicking things off with Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. Clearly an AC/DC fan who says, hopefully this hasn't been said already. Heading to work, we'll catch up later. Anyway, I hope the WWE isn't trying to fast track a breakup angle with the Judgment Day and the Imperium because it's working so well with the Bloodline. I don't think those are connected.
Well, it is a thing of that thing worked, so let's do it again. But I think it's more. It does make sense narratively with the Judgment Day than it does with Imperium, for instance. So,
RDP123 says, "Hey lads, I was catching up on AEW review last week, and Luke guessed it'll be MJF and AC versus Darby and OC in the final. My fantasy booking would be that they finally hit the double clothesline spot, only for Cole to lift up Darby and hit the side headlock takeover for the 1-2-3. That's a very fun little finish.
It's funny how many sort of faction-y, tag teamy, odd couple-y stuff is going on at the moment in wrestling as a whole.
Yeah. No, I really like the side headlock takeover thing. I think is an excellent little addition to that. But really, for me, it is all about that double clothesline spot. I can't wait for that. Charles Berg said, I've been searching for the funniest thing in wrestling, and I found it. Jericho announcing the participants in the Cruiserweight Battle Royal in WCW with such gems as, this is Silver King. If he wins 12 more matches, he'll be upgraded to Golden King.
Jericho doing stuff in WCW because he wasn't allowed to do it is always a gold mine. Yeah. For me, it's the armbar.
Yeah,
stuff.
Man of 1,004 holds.
Yeah.
He is the Man of 1,000 holds. Well, I'm the Man of 1,004 holds. And here they all are.
Yeah, just very funny stuff.
Aaron Hanrahan has been a member for 22 months in a row. Said, hey guys, just want to say that I was at Money in the Bank and the crowd was so good. Watched your live stream reaction and it looked so much fun. Albeit all in, and I am buzzing.
Sorry.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Darren here says, you know when the shirt with the WrestleTalk beer names is going to be available? I will ask Randy Andy Datson on that one to see if he's got any answer for that because he is leading up the merch stuff. And Kevin here says, thank you to and Pete for the great work on the MyGM live stream yesterday. Luke being more creative with his insults towards Triple H was fun and helped me go through the almost 2-hour train ride home. Jam that jam.
Well, for 2-hour train is about the peak for me. On train times.
It's a bit too much for you after that?
I've done 3 hours before and I did not like it.
I mean, like, you had to get trains up to the northwest.
Well,
those are like, those are your 4 or 5 hour ones with a little stopover in Birmingham, maybe. Get to New Street, and it's like, well, got to wait another hour before my train.
They cost too much money, but the ones to Manchester, at the very least, are about 1 hour 50. So,
yeah, you know, it is expensive.
Too expensive.
It's prohibitively expensive.
It's cheaper to fly, and that's nonsense.
It is cheaper to fly, and that is nonsense.
Yeah.
Maybe we should nationalise them. Anyway, that is in fact all of our Ultra Chats for this show. Please go and watch that My GM live stream that we did yesterday. It was a great and fun time.
I had a great time.
I have been thinking about a lot of my choices over the past 12 hours, and I regret most of them. So, and I really did have a moment. I was walking to the station today, and I was listening to a podcast, but I wasn't really taking much.
You were too busy thinking.
I was too busy going I should have done that.
What's one of them? Give us one.
I should have bought the stadium.
Should have bought the stadium.
Yeah.
You don't have to book it straight away.
No, I know. Funny enough, I made that exact same mistake in season 2.
There you go.
But I panic.
But at the very least, Pete didn't. So you're in even keel there.
But it's honestly that time. I know I bring it up, but it panics me.
It is. I did also feel for the first time in the room watching you guys do it live. The live element of it is a bit you never know.
I have no idea if the stream's actually running because we don't have a production.
There's a lot going on. Yeah.
But yeah, panicked and I made it. I made some errors. But hey, that's what next week is all about.
We've got five more weeks of my GM to solve it.
Next week is the comeback, man.
And I believe in you.
Thank you, bud.
You're welcome.
So go and check that out over on partsFUNknown. And we'll be back on Thursday with the AEW Dynamite review. And then on Saturday, the SmackDown review. Monday, it'll be Collision. And then we're heading towards SummerSlam.
Oh my God, it's so close.
I know, it's real close, isn't
it?
Thank you all so much for watching this episode. Please do press the subscribe button. This is your first time here. Give us a little thumbs up and all that good jazz. And we will see you next time. I've been Lee Cohen, DAD. That has been the Professor Dan Layton. Jam that jam.